Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Ne0 Gets To Know. We've done plenty of these before, but we've got a pretty special one coming through today. We've got a UK boy himself, a major finalist of Ashhh. I mean, it's kind of already, brother. How's it feel to have those titles? You're a major finalist. You're now one of those prominent coaches, or probably one of those prominent coaches in the UK ever, alongside kind of the likes of Kate. I mean, how do those kind of titles feel?
No, it feels weird still, to be honest. It feels so strange. The whole run was just amazing, and I don't know. I don't think it's hasn't sunk in yet properly.
We'll come to all the major stuff. Let's go back to the start for you. How did esports all start? What's the kind of the story for you? I think everybody has kind of a different story of how they got into working within esports. What's your story?
So I think when it came to Counter-Strike, I had some friends that actually played at school, and they actually bugged me all the time to play, and I never really wanted to play. I didn't really like FPS. So the main game I liked to play was called Lord of the Rings.
Classic.
A strategy game, and that was the only game I was interested in playing, like Red Alert and things like this. And
Yeah.
eventually they got me into it, and I just liked it, and I had to pretty much lie to my parents that I needed a better PC for school and things like this, so just so I could run Counter Strike properly
Yeah.
because it was a bit demanding back then with your dial up. But yeah, I just did it from there, and then just a competition. I was very competitive and kind of got in it from there.
And let's talk about the playing career as well. Of course, you had a decent stint as a player. What was kind of the career like there? Of course, most people nowadays know you as a coach, but you did actually have a fairly decent couple of tournaments under your belt, mainly kind of UK domestic ones as a kind of a player. What were they like?
I mean, it was fun. It was just I think back then it wasn't ever really a career choice possible for
Mm.
99% of people. I mean, the whole time I was playing, there was teams would basically fold between lands and then they'd come
Yeah.
back together just before a LAN and you'd do nothing for 3, 4 months. There'd be nothing to play for, no online leagues, no anything. And then on top of that as well, like there's no culture or anything. I like you can't say to your parents I want to be a professional gamer and oh yeah, by the way, there's no money, there's no salaries, the
Yeah.
prize pool's 3,000 for coming first at the national LAN and whatever. So it's kind of just you just play it to have the competitive side and to try and be the best that you could be. So it was definitely fun. I would love to have go if it was like now and being able, especially having all
For
the
sure.
information stuff, I had the streams, the YouTube channels stuff like this, they've been
Mm.
amazing to learn. But I mean, back then it was just more of a dream than anything to play, and it was never really going to happen.
Was there ever a thought process about it? Ever like I'd love to see whether I can actually kind of dedicate some time and give this a go, or was it never really kind of in the pipeline for you?
I said the only time it was I ever thought of it properly was just before I quit, but it was more of a my plan was to play, be an in-game leader, help someone else take my role, and then move into
Okay.
coaching because that's the only point where esports was viable. I would say the
Mhm.
whole time I was playing, and that's kind of ended up what I did go for in the end. I was in a team with Mezzy and Jane, who was in Heretics, and
For sure.
some other people, and Fozy even as well. And
Oh, okay.
we had like a decent team. And
Mm.
I was getting worse and worse. I mean, I was like 27 or something. I was barely playing, and I was getting worse and worse. And I
Yeah.
wanted to move to coaching. I did that, and then I went straight to Vex pretty much from there. August 5, what do we call it, something from there. So
Yeah.
eventually turned it into a career. It's something I would love to do as a player. I always wanted to go to the big lands, but it was never a career choice, like 100% when I was younger.
And let's talk about that kind of that switch to coaching. You talk about Vex, right? And as one of the kind of your very very first kind of coaching gigs coming through for you. Was that ever like a really a long term kind of idea, right? I'm going to give coaching long term in CS:GO a go. I think I can make this my long term career. Was that ever the thought process back then, or was it always the case of we just see what happens?
Yeah, I think my dream was always like I'm not sort of person who goes, I want to win a major, I want to win
Mm.
a big trophy or anything. My only dream I would say I've ever had is to do it full time as a coach, and that was the one thing I wanted to do. So when I was doing it with Vex, I always thought maybe if I do like, really really overperform, we do really really good, maybe take a step up and then go one step at a time and see where we can go. But the whole goal was can I do this full time as a job, and if I can, it'll give me more chance to improve and stay in it for longer and go further up the ladder.
Mm.
And that's kind of exactly what that team almost did, I would say. I think Valorant kind
Yeah,
of took that away from us as an
for sure.
opportunity, but it still gave me a chance to go to Gamerlegion and then to be like, oh yeah, I've done coaching before. Can you give me a chance and whatever? And it gave me a chance to get there.
Absolutely. And then Gamerlegion, right? I mean, obviously, now in hindsight, an absolutely massive opportunity. But I guess back then, Gamerlegion were a little bit more of a smaller organization. I mean, even in its earlier stints, we had players like Adam 9130, Dobbo playing for a while. For you, how did the Gamerlegion opportunity come about? And what was it like when you kind of initially got the offer?
I didn't really get the offer. It was,
Oh, okay.
I think, Adam was really pushing for me to be his
Mm.
coach because they had Gux who was doing it, who was playing with Fnatic 1.6, and he kind of quit and then just came back to play. And he was going to do the same thing I was talking about, like he was going to play,
Sure.
see if he wasn't good enough, then go to coaching and kind of get
Mm.
his foot in the door like that way. I think Adam was pushing for me, but I don't think I don't think the organization knew much about me or anything like this. So in the
Mm.
end, I kind of went to the manager and I said, look, I know you've got a new coach and he's kind of getting used to things. I think I can probably help him, and also I can be an analyst. I can do the
Sure.
anti-strat and I can do whatever, and I'll work for free. And if you don't want me in a month or two, then fair enough. And I've got some experience and
Yeah.
whatever. And after I think about a month and a half, maybe their coach turned to me and said, I don't think I want to do this. I think you're better at doing this than I am. I'm going to go away from esports because it's not really for me. And that's kind
Okay.
of how it happened. So I think if I didn't say I would have tried it for free, I probably never would have got the offer. But maybe they would have done. We'll never know. But I just came to taking a bit of initiative, taking a risk.
Yeah.
And yeah, from there, that's when I was able to quit my job finally and actually do it full time.
It kind of feels like right place, right time type of stuff, right? I mean, you like you said, you kind of came in, said I'd do it for free, but at the same time, like you had no idea at that point that the guy coaching at the time was really actually not in it for the long run. So you right place, right time for you, and then you were the right man to fill the job.
Yeah. I mean, it all came from the starting with the ladder. If I'm not coaching Vex, I'm not with Mez, I'm not with Adam. They don't give their net recommendation. And when I go to the manager, he probably goes, I don't know who you are, and I'm not
Of
giving you a chance,
course.
stuff like this. So I think having those guys there definitely gave me the big opportunity.
Absolutely. And what were you working as? What was your full time job before you kind of quit and went full time into CS:GO?
So I was working for my dad's company in installation estimating, it's
Fair.
called. So it's like more of an office job, kind of using 3D drawings and figuring
Okay.
out which installations needed on brand new buildings, not houses and things like this. And it was fine. Honestly, it was fine. I did this the whole time I was coaching Vex as well as a full-time job. I'm doing
Mhm.
Vex at the same time, but it's kind of what you had to do if you want to give it a go. And I
Of
think a lot of
course.
people don't enjoy doing that, and especially as playing like I'm doing university and playing and stuff. Well,
Yeah.
you just gotta go at it, and
Hmm.
as long as you can and be consistent with it. I think that would be my
Exactly.
advice to anyone else who wants to do something similar.
Absolutely. And of course, when you joined Gamerlegion then and became officially as the kind of the head coach, could you ever really have expected all of this now? Kind of at that point back in what 2020, I think it was. Could you have expected all of this?
No, I mean it's just the whole the whole thing, in my opinion, with coaching is you always want to just keep improving
Absolutely.
all the time, and it's the same now. Maybe some of our players end up getting offers or something like this. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm not going to look to try and be as good as the team is now. I'm going to try and look to be better. I'm going to try and
That's
be
it.
better and learn from experiences. And I would expect the same from the players all the time. That they should never be happy whatever level they're at now. It doesn't matter how
Absolutely.
good they're doing. They should be working to be better. So that's kind of always been my approach, and hopefully I'll just keep doing kind of like that.
We love to see it. So before we jump into, of course, the elephant in the room of the major, I want to start with the UK scene. Of course, it's a scene which you're obviously a very active part of. And just generally, kind of, you're now regarded as a bit of a legend of the UK scene, especially with kind of your recent achievements. I mean, for yourself, when we look at coaches, especially at the moment, it's yourself and Cater. That they're kind of the top dogs that we have in terms of UK coaches worldwide. First of all, I mean, for you, how does that kind of feel in terms of that you are the kind of the role model, yourself and Cater?
I mean, I think it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice to be thought of like that. I don't know if people think that, but maybe maybe they do. But it's nice to have people think that because I think when I played, me and Kato were two of the people that took it more seriously than other
Sure.
people. Like I know Kato was the guy that when he played, he knew every single smoke and every single map all the time, and he taught Counter Strike non-stop. Like if you ever
Mhm.
talked to him, everything's Counter Strike, Counter Strike, Counter Strike, like all
Love
the
it.
time. Like you could tell he was super passionate, and I think I'm exactly the same. Like it's something we both wanted to do kind of forever. So to be
Mhm.
kind of at the top of the scene now, I think it's good for both of us to feel like that, and it's good for the scene that we've got people that actually want to be improving. They actually want to talk about Counter Strike. They're not
For sure.
pretending it's just something that, oh yeah, I'm kind of good at this, but I like going out and partying and I want to
Yeah.
do whatever and stuff like this. I think if you need to be passionate about something, you should admit you're passionate about it, and it encourages other people to be the same. You know, they don't have to hide that they love playing the game, whatever.
Absolutely. And when you look at the UK scene now, it kind of feels, and I want to kind of get your opinion on this, right now it sort of feels like it's the best it's been in a long time, maybe even ever, right? You've got kind of yourself and Kate at the top level of coaching. We've got players and like some Mezzi at the top level of playing, and teams as well with like, Into the Breach, getting top 8 at a major. It seems like at the moment this is probably the best the UKC, especially in CSGO, has ever been.
Yeah, for CS:GO, 100%. Like there's never been a team that's had anywhere near the achievements in the breach,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the level they're playing as well is so much higher than I think even they probably expected. And there's no team that's ever had international results out in the breach, and no one's ever beaten the team like FaZe. No one's been a team that even near top 10 before. Like we used to celebrate, it was easy skins, and they were called when they nearly beat Renegades, and
Yeah,
Renegades weren't even
yeah.
good back then. That's just something we kind of celebrate as one of our best teams. I think also it helps a lot having these other teams come through, the hungry teams like the Coalesce and the Viperio and even into the bin and stuff like this. It's really important that they're pushing all the time, and then if people are not pulling the weight on, let's say, into the breach or in point, then they step up and they take the next spaces again. I think we've lacked that for a long time. The big teams push the other teams to be better because everyone wants to be the best in their own scene, right?
For sure.
And then also it's having, because of things like Beyond Invitational, which Endpoint is setting up, EPS and Epiclan getting the games onto HTV, it's giving teams more opportunities to play on HTV. They show they can do, they show the better rate and stuff like this. They get invited to more tournaments, to get more points, and then they get more experience. And the experience is really, really, really important in my opinion. Everyone needs to be able to play with a bit of pressure on them, and when all your stats are there for everyone to see, that is pressure, whether you like it or not. And people shouldn't judge it like that, but that's the way it is. It's kind of pushing the whole scene, and we'll see that the next teams below those teams will start pushing it, like Arctic Raptors and teams like that. They'll start pushing those teams, and I can't name every team because I'm not as involved in the UK scene as I'd like to be. But
yeah,
it's really good seeing those teams push that. I think in the past when it was like even Vexed and Endpoint, it was kind of just us and Fierce who were kind of burned out, kind of not really wanting to play as much, and there was no one else. There was no one else below us. We didn't have the results. Endpoint didn't have the results, and that meant no opportunities for anyone. And seeing as is now, it's great. Hopefully, it brings new opportunities in terms of sponsors and organizations, and hopefully, it brings up a new era of UK CS going into CS2.
That's what I'd love to hear. And on the other side, is there anything specifically off the top of your head? You're someone who's relatively well known in terms of the top level of kind of the UK scene. Is there anything in your mind that you'd like to see to help improve it? Obviously, we're in a pretty good state right now, but there's always room for improvement. Is there anything you'd want to see to kind of help that improvement?
I think I'd like to see the lands step up a lot.
Agreed.
I think Epicon are doing a really good job, but I'd even like to see them step it up even more, and all the teams take it really seriously. I think ISO is doing a really poor job, and they need to start listening to the community. They need to start getting the teams up. Having 10 teams, whatever the last event, is just unforgivably poor. But having the stage opportunity they have is super important to get people there with potentially a crowd, and maybe people don't sit and watch, but having the opportunity for a crowd there, having a proper broadcasting sort of system, having interviews and things on the stage, you need that. You really, really need that experience, and I think it matters a lot going to play these tier 1 events. Like people might think, oh, it's just a crappy land, 3,000 people, whatever, but it matters a lot. And having Epiclan to have that sort of thing is really important as well. And hopefully having the land that Endpoint are going to set up, it just gives more and more experience, and it gives more trust for. If I'm the coach of Endpoint, something I wanted to pick someone who's played on stage and they've shown they can perform on a stage, and you can't perform on a stage unless you've got experience of playing on a stage. And we do that, we can produce more and more better players, and more better players means more opportunities for everyone, even more casters and things like this. Everything's going to be improved for the scene.
Absolutely, we love to see it. Okay, and then on the side, there's another thing that maybe a lot of people might not know. I know domestically we do. You're involved with the BCSA, right? It was the British Counter-Strike Association, essentially. What's kind of the goals for the BCSA? You're a part of the board, and right in saying you have a pretty active role in kind of the running of things. So what's kind of the goals? What's the aspirations of the BCSA?
I think it's just to get the most out of everything in the UK scene. We want to see it where there are opportunities for everyone. People can go pro. People can step up to the next level. And we need to find the platform for that. We need to get in sync with the organizations, or the Epic clans, ISOs, and things like this. Give them direct feedback that isn't something that's on Twitter, which is unhelpful criticism. It's this is terrible. It's unusable. Don't go here. Like this doesn't help anyone. And if they have someone who's there, kind of more experienced, like myself, Mizzy, Max, and Alan, then they know they're getting a more balanced opinion, something that's more thought out. People who've just been around the scene for forever, and hopefully they can listen to us a bit more, and we can kind of be like the middleman kind of thing between the two. And then it's just not just a social media mess.
Yeah.
and hopefully then we can help people. We can, if people come to us and they say, "Oh, I've got this weird contract. I don't understand. I've never had a contract before," rather than just signing it, which people have done forever and getting nothing in return, they can come to us and we can try and help as fair as we can, and hopefully we can try and just lift the bar. I think because as we're stepping up in the scene, everything else needs to follow. We can't just have into the beach stepping up and then all our events stay the same and all the players stay the same personality wise, and it's just everything we try and lift it at the same time as the scene's improving.
For sure, love to see it. And of course, I guess with recent news as of at the time of recording, it was last night. Endpoint ITB UK Premiership Finals. ITB take it 3-1. First time since 2019 that Endpoint have lost the UK Premiership, and they were 8 in a row up until that point. But for them, this is a Endpoint were they were the Titan organization within UK CS, but they never really reached the top. They had all the kind of the right puzzle pieces at one point of time with Flames or Nerds or Boros or whatever, but it never really kind of came to fruition. What do you think's next for Endpoint? They were kind of a once great, now falling off kind of a fairly decent amount. What do you think comes next for Endpoint?
I don't know. I've never been at Endpoint. I've never really spoken to many people, but I understand that they have tried really hard to push the UK scene, and I think that seeing them struggle maybe more than ever, I would say now.
I think so, yeah.
Especially in reference to how good their players should be. I think it kind of sucks a little bit, to be honest, because the scene's all growing. They've been there pushing it for the whole time, doing everything that they kind of can, as well as running their organization, try to be profitable. I think it's a bit unfortunate for them that they're kind of struggling now. But at the same time, I'm glad Into the Breach won. I'd like the UK team to win. I want a team that is a team. I never want to see the mixers win. I don't think there's any benefit ever in the history of UK CS seeing the mixers win. It's just so easy to play from that side of things. So I think that was really positive, and hopefully with Endpoint they're able to just figure out what they want to do. Do they want to be a UK team? Do they want to be an EU team? Or whatever they figure out they want to do, they should just go with it and just make it work. I'm sure they will make it work eventually. I mean, especially if they pick someone like Kakanita up, I think that'll be a really good team on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump on to kind of the big news, the elephant in the room. Of course, you're a major finalist, and of course we've already kind of got your kind of initial thoughts on that, but talk me through the major. Let's kind of start at the RMR. Initially, looked a little bit rocky. You started off with a loss to 1 win, and a little bit on edge there, and then you kind of turned it up massively around and qualified with a win over FaZe. I mean, qualifying through the RMR first of all, how did that feel? And then to do it over FaZe as well, how did that feel?
I think you've mixed the teams up a bit.
Oh really? Oh, apologies. Yeah. But even still qualifying through the RMR, yeah. Talk me through that.
Yeah, so we played our first game as Apex. We played first game.
Sorry, that's yeah.
And that was one that I think it was Apex. I hope I'm not mixing myself in a lot of games.
So I think it was Apex. I think I cast that game, so yeah, you did, yeah.
So we lost that game and we struggled. I think we prepared kind of poorly for it. We went too hard into what they were going to do rather than what we were going to do, and I think it was kind of a learning curve as well for the whole tournament. So we started pretty poorly there. It was an annoying one as well because Sticko was on his podcast saying that, oh yeah, we're by far the better team, we'll be Gamerlegion and stuff like this, and then we went and lost to them. So that was kind of annoying.
But they've played well recently as well. They've surprised a lot of people, I think.
They're a good team. I mean, these teams up there that we're seeing, we're not surprised. Like we if anything, we're surprised that a team like Ne0 wasn't further. Even when we beat Ne0, we thought, yeah, we'll probably see Ne0 going further forward and stuff like this. So we're definitely not surprised by that. And then we played one win. I mean, all of our games at the RMI felt like were just mental tests, I would say, because this was the first time I would say we'd ever played at a tournament where we had high expectations on ourselves and we were one of the favourites. And teams were saying, people were saying, Gamerlegion should get through. Gamerlegion should definitely be the 5th, 6th team to get through this thing, no problem. And this time we weren't the underdogs. And I'd say nearly every time we've played before, we've been underdogs. So that was kind of proving to ourselves we can play under the pressure and we can perform. And we did that. I think they were all scrappy games. We could have lost in all of them, and we could have won all 4 games as well. So it was
OT against.
It was really encouraging.
It was like a long one.
Against 1-1 as well. We were 15-12 down, and ACO won a really hard 1v2 as well to get us back in. So it was. I mean, the 1-1 was one of the teams we didn't want to play. The team on paper is really scary, I would say. And the best of ones are horrible as it is. So getting through that stage I'd say that was a big achievement. I would say honestly, especially being the favourites, it was a big achievement for us.
And then the qualification game over Falcons, right, wasn't it? It was Falcons, and it was like, it was kind of bittersweet because you knocked the French hopefuls out, but you were the better team. I mean, again, once you've kind of got that final win over the belt, you played a seeding game, I'm right in saying, against B&E, right? I think Interbeach went straight to Legends, and you and B&E played that seeding game for Legends spot. But that one doesn't really matter at that point. You've already qualified. You got through the RMR. You've beaten Falcons. I mean, how did that feel initially?
I'd say I felt a lot of relief, I would say, because that's, like I said, I think that we don't really talk about expectations. I've always said that I don't think it benefits talking to the players and say this is what we should expect to do. It just sets you up to fall short of it. I don't think it gives people need the extra motivation. Everyone wants to win all the time, so we just want to win every game we play, right? So getting through that was kind of the nice one. We've done what we need to do, and now we can play with a bit of pressure off our shoulders, and so everyone else is kind of going crazy, and I'm kind of taking a sigh of relief, like, yes, okay, perfect. We know what we need to do. Now we can start playing playing the best teams, which is what we want to do at the RMR, and we just didn't get a chance because all the best teams kept losing. So that was I would say that's the thing that made it less sweet for me, is that we didn't get to play them, and people were ragging on teams like Fnatic for not playing the best teams. Well, we wanted to play the best teams, but the best teams keep losing. We don't get a choice in this.
Yeah,
we're trying to win to play them.
Is it, right?
Yeah. No. We would much rather lose to a top team than lose a scrappy game against a team that we know is going to be really hard to play against. So we don't want to. If we lose to Falcons, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Gamerlegion, they're overrated and not that good," and things like this. But we know Falcons are hard to play against as well. So I'd say it was a lot of relief for myself, and it was a lot of elation for the players, because the Sticker's going to come back in the game again. They know they're going to the next event, and I mean, everyone wants to go to Paris as well, right? So it was definitely a mixture of emotions for me.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we go to the challenger stage, and again, didn't start initially that well. The losses to Complexity. I guess Complexity, you can kind of understand. They on their day are a top team. The Mongols one, I think, for me was a massive upset. I think I heard you guys from that one all day. Talk me through those initial 2 losses. Kind of what went wrong there.
I think if I go through the games one by one, I think Complexity, we knew was going to be a hard game. Like we knew Complexity was going through. Like even for our pick'ems and stuff, I had Complexity going through, even though I predicted we were going to beat them first, because I just think that they play such an annoying sort of gambly sort of CT side in particular. The sort of team every round they're going to be doing something, and if you go the wrong place, you make a bad call, you just lose based off what they've done. And if you don't, then they save the guns. I think that style is something that is really good. Also has its downsides, because obviously if you gamble every round, then you gamble every round. It's not always going to go right.
For sure.
But in that game, it didn't go right for us, and we knew on our T sides if we're not super aware, we're not ready for every setup possible, and going in banana or middle, stuff like this, we were going to struggle, and we did struggle. And even when we got that advantages later on, because we'd lost so many rounds where we were into them stacks, we had doubts in our mind. And then in the situations where we were usually Maze on Inferno, we were losing them, like 4v3s, 3v2 after plants. Unlosable situations, we weren't winning any of them. And then we go to CT side, and we almost nearly win the game from CT side, which kind of showed a lot of I'd say it was really encouraging, actually, from that game, that we actually showed we're not just going to get run over, because I think we were 12-3, 13-2 down or something, and we nearly brought it back. I think we lost on an eco or something at the end, but we nearly brought that back. So that gave us a bit more confidence. But then also going into the Mongols, it was a horrible veto for us, because the maps were really, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's one of those where we couldn't get away from Inferno, but we knew it was a good map for them. Like, we had to ban certain maps. We didn't really want to play specific maps because we hadn't practiced them as much, and then we go to Inferno. So when we played that, that's just, I mean, I think it's their best map, maybe, is it something like this?
Yeah.
But
so they banned Vertigo and Overpass to start, and then you banned Mirage, Anubis, Nuke, and then they banned Ancient and went into Inferno. And Inferno is basically the best map.
That's because going into this, we'd barely played any Nuke at all.
Okay,
and
right.
I think the last time we played Nuke was like 2 months ago, maybe something like this. And Mirage, we were just on a big losing streak. We just kept losing and losing, and we had to ban Anubis. So that kind of meant we had to play Inferno, which wasn't a big issue, because Inferno was our best map going into the major.
For sure.
And what we decided after this was that we'd put so much focus in improving our Vertigo, improving our Overpass, that our Inferno in practice, we were barely playing it. And we were playing it as kind of we'd play it as like we need to play Inferno every so often, we'll play Inferno. Okay, we've only played Inferno once this week, we'll play Inferno. And that's kind of the only time we were playing it, so everything kind of was just not clicking for us.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the event, we just avoided Inferno, and the only times we played it from there was when Force picked it against us, and when Heroic picked it against us, and we won both of them, because we were actually playing with more confidence then. Yeah. So we got away from Inferno, we kind of mentally set us a bit, we kind of had some positives right there, and that was the whole thing, was just focusing on the positives all the time, and getting the most out of that, and end up setting us up nicely, I think.
And for you as well, when you're I mean, talking about mid game, right? When you see, for example, that complexity one, when you see that things are really not going well, when you call for those tack pauses, what are the conversations like? Is it more kind of specific strats and specific things to really try and find a round, or is it more kind of a morale type thing where you're like, right, lads, like we know we can compete here, like pick your head up type thing. Like, what for you when you call for those timeouts, you actively joining the conversation? What are you doing to kind of turn the ship around?
Well, so at events, I've said this to the players, and I've said this before in interviews as well. Like it's wherever you stand, you can't see everything that's going on. It's impossible. Like if I stand behind Shuey, I can't see the anchors either side.
Of course,
If I
yeah,
stand to one side of them, there's two people I can't see again. So at any point, I can see three people. So I've got no idea what's kind of going on one side of the map. Sometimes I don't even know if this kill's been happening. So
mm,
from that point of view, it's really, really hard to draw a picture. So when I'm taking notes in the back, I'm usually what I'm writing down is kind of what I think the other team was doing, what we were doing,
sure,
what kind of worked, what didn't work, and I'm trying to keep tabs on things. So if the other team's playing really fast, I'm going to be like, guys, the pace change coming in, they're going to play slow. If they're playing really slow, they're ready for us to be on our feet kind of towards here, what they kind of been working for them, what hasn't been working for them.
yeah,
But in these pauses, I think most of the time it's kind of you're breaking down the momentum of the other team. You try to
for sure.
make the other team overthink a little bit, and you try to recompose the room because sometimes when things are going wrong, people are just they're focusing so much on what's going wrong
Mm-hmm.
rather than playing the next round, and they're kind of putting pressure on themselves, thinking, oh, I should have won that last round and whatever. And then when you're playing the low bar, you're not thinking about it, you don't make a plan, and then you're missing out on key rounds all the time. You're missing opportunities. So it's kind of getting the negatives out of the head as much as possible. Guys, we can still win this. Let's refocus. Let's focus on doing this instead. Let's expect this. Let's
Mm-hmm.
be more active towards this side of the map or whatever, and trying just to keep everyone kind of believing a little bit more and
For sure.
keeping focus. I'd say that's most of the time in tap pauses. Sometimes there are obviously occasions where it's more tactical, but I'd say that's more online that sort of thing happens.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, of course, I guess from the being 0-2 down as well, when you're going back to the hotel, and of course, I'm assuming you guys do a little debrief at either end of the day or maybe start of the next day. What are you doing in that conversation? When you were 0-2 down, you just lost to the Mongols. What was kind of the conversation you were having then going forward? You were basically backs against the wall. It's best of threes now the whole way. To avoid being knocked out. For you, kind of what was the conversations like? What were those sort of debrief sort of situations like?
So when you're losing, I think that the thing that happens is people kind of despair a little bit, and
Yeah.
when you're on the verge of going out, the worst thing is that you're always thinking this could be my last game, this could be the last map.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go home from the tournament. I'm gonna have four poor maps, and then I'm gonna get removed, and just all these things like they kind of
Yeah.
spiral out of control. And the only thoughts that we had going back was nothing tactical, like literally not a single thing. Maybe like a tweak to play what map we're gonna pick or something like this. But I think
Hmm.
the only thing we talked about was let's try and avoid playing Inferno. And
Okay.
everything else from my side was talking with our manager, talking with our sports psychologist. Like, I need you to talk to this person. Let's go for it. We went for a team drinks on that day, and
Okay.
I kind of said, I just want the team kind of there. We go together, we have drinks, we relax, we talk about things like,
Hmm.
and it's kind of just getting everyone's confidence up because yes, as much as it is negative to be 0-2, you're playing against a team that's also 0-2, and you
Of
can
course.
focus on exploiting that and being like, you know what, guys, we might feel down, but we've got to remember the other team feels down and try to get everyone feeling as confident as possible. And then going from there, you don't need to play good CS at that point, 0-2. You just need to be more in the game. You need to not be stressing out. You need to be as focused as possible and just play it round by round. And that was the main approach. We had the slight tactical things we talked about in terms of the maps, but everything else was let's be as confident as possible.
Yeah.
Let's get everyone feeling good. Let's make sure no one's sulking. Let's make sure no one's turning down like going to team meals. Let's sure everyone's showing up at the same time. Things like setting the standards and
Mhm.
going like it's with 0-0 still.
Love it. Fair enough. And then from 0-2, then the qualification begins. And an interesting thing as well, on paper, for every single game you played from 0-2 down, you were the underdogs for every single one. Mal's OG fours. Talk me through those games. Mal's one as well, especially. And we've kind of now just seen what they've done at Dallas. Got to as a grand final. They're a solid team, but then a really bad major. OG, I think they've gone through, they're a myriad of changes. That roster is kind of all over the place. They're playing with Nico to an Nexa as well. And then fours as well. I think still generally in terms of the grand scope of CS are very underlooked. I think that team is a really solid team. Jerry, an unbelievable IGL. So talk me through going from 0-2 and taking down teams like Mal's, OG, and Fours, kind of titan organizations to qualify through. What was that like?
I think first off, our advantage was that we were underdogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a massive advantage, but it definitely is an advantage. And I think one of the annoying things afterwards is saying the people saying stuff like, "Oh, Gamerlegion they only beat teams that didn't advance." Well, we only beat the teams that didn't advance because we knocked them all out because
Yeah.
we had to because we fucked up on the first day. Like it was our own fault.
Yeah.
So playing mouse sports, I think that's probably one of the worst games we could have wanted because we knew they were really good. Like the only thing that mouse kind of had going against them was they weren't playing anywhere near as much as they should be doing. They were playing a quarter of the maps we kind of should have done. I think it maybe it also benefited them a little bit because our preparation was a mess because we're preparing for maps that are 3 months apart and they played 2 maps on
Yeah.
a certain one, and that was really hard. So preparation was a disaster for that one. I would say there was not much we could do about it. We couldn't even tell what the veto was going to be because
Oh,
a
really?
team that's barely playing. How do you know what
Yeah.
they're probably been practicing non-stop, right? And
Yeah, they
they're
have
probably changed the map all
34
around.
maps played in the entire year prior to the major, which is the least of anyone. And then like Monty had like
Yeah.
165. It's like
Yeah.
complete the polar opposites.
And imagine as well if they played 34 maps over, I think they play all 7 maps. I think
I
that
think
team,
so. Yeah, yeah.
and then imagine they're not all equally split out. So if we're trying to pick a map, we might pick a map that they played twice, and one of them was 2 months ago, and there's no way that a tier one team is playing the same way as they were 2 months ago. I think it's
Absolutely.
such a benefit for tier one teams to have that big space sometimes that they can change everything. So our preparation was pretty much a disaster, and that was basically one of a few games I would say where we just had to rely that we've been practicing the right way, and that everything that we've been doing, that we've been playing a bit more than maybe some of the players want to play. But that's kind of this is exactly the reason we were doing it sometimes and pushing an hour onto a schedule where people want to end a bit early because we knew that. Well, I knew eventually we were going to get put in a situation where we have to play something we're not comfortable on, and
For sure.
we're not going to have preparation on. We can't always rely on preparation, and we saw that against Apex and the RMR. Preparation isn't always going to be a good thing for us. So we played that one. The first game was really scrappy. I think Chewy had a really good game on that
Mhm.
one, and he had some really important rounds. And we played really well, and we got through. And then from playing these 0-2 teams, if they're not mentally super strong and they're losing to underdogs, a lot of times they just capitulate, and this is exactly what happened on the second map. We just made them look really poor in the
Yeah.
second map, and Overpass was this event. Like I said, that Inferno got worse because we focused so much on Overpass. Overpass turned into our best map, and on this event, Overpass, we were just beating everyone comfortably on it. And this one, we kind of made them look poor, and then we knocked Massports out, and everyone's going, "Oh, Massports, they look really bad this event or something like this." Well, no, they just lost to
A
a
good
team that
team.
was playing really well on this
Yeah.
event. And the same way, if we'd have lost, everyone would have said, "Oh, Gamerlegion needs to make roster changes. These teams are dead. It's a fluke from last major."
Mhm.
Well, it's just the good teams were playing each other at this
Yeah.
event, like at this stage, and that kind of went into the next game as well because we played OG, and OG were in amazing form going into this, and everyone was talking about how good they were and the things were clicking with Nico, and we played them, and they were a really tough game. I think we won. I think we won the first game quite comfortably, and then we lost the second game badly. It might have been the other way around, I'm not sure. And then we
Mhm.
won the third map comfortably, but those guys are really scary individually. And you look on paper, we shouldn't be beating a team like that. And this
Yeah.
team was playing really well, and everyone was saying this team's probably going to go through because they're playing so nicely. And I think that's when we kind of showed to ourselves that we're really good because we played mouse sports and we could easily say, oh, they had an off day or they were struggling.
For sure.
But when we beat OG, who were confident, even though they were down at 1-2, I think that kind of proved to ourselves that we can go really far. And that's what I was pushing all the time. We can, before we even played our first game, I was pushing, we can win the major because the state of tier 1 CSs.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tier 1
For
CS
sure.
is looking really inconsistent. And if everything goes right, we could win the major and then somehow end up making the final. So yeah, OG was a tough game, and Fours was a 2-0, but it was a really tough 2-0. I think they really stressed out more than any of the other teams. That's all they were banging the desks, they were screaming way more than they probably should have been doing. I think they were trying to force it a little bit, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they were making quite a lot of mistakes, and both teams were making quite a lot of mistakes because it was at this point obviously there's a lot of pressure on both of us because we pulled it back
Yeah.
and it was 2-2. But that was a really tough series. But I think we proved we were a better team over that because both teams lost so many stupid rounds, and yeah, they're always difficult to play against fours. I've probably fought against fours more times in my career as a coach than any other team as well, and it's always a nightmare.
They're a tough team, absolutely. And then we get to the champion stage. We'll start off with the first game as well. Monty, they feel like such an enigma. That Monty team. They're so you just don't really know what you're going to get out of them. Sometimes Boris is the best player in the world, and then other times, the team doesn't have the performances. And let's not beat around the bush. You guys destroyed them. It was very comfortable. Did that come down to kind of just on the day that you guys were just a lot better, or was it a lot of it in terms of preparation as well? Obviously, you played Overpass too, which you absolutely massacred them on. What did it come down to? Why was it so one-sided for you guys? Was it preparation or just on the day, just absolutely the better team?
I think I think for Monty was the only game where I think preparation was the big decider. I would
Mm-hmm.
say because I in particular looked a lot at this, and I know Arnold as well. But I think the game plan was the most important part of this, and that
Sure.
was I think I recognized that the way they were playing was they weren't throwing flashbangs together. They were never executing.
Okay.
Like if they go in a bomb site, it was always they're going to contact first, and then they're going to throw utility after they've killed someone
Mm-hmm.
every time. So this was something I went over very, very specifically multiple times in preparation that we have to be ready all the time for what they're going to do. And that means that, for example, if we're playing playing overpass at monster,
Yeah.
we need to get a smoke down early, be ready for them sneaking through, and then when the smoke dies, we need to flash, check it, and take away the timing. So if they want to walk in
Sure.
at any point, they're either checking a flashbang or they're stuck behind a smoke, and or they have to walk through it.
That's smart.
So this was the thing on this, but same towards A. Like everything they're going to do is not going to end with bombs. They're not going to end with a multi truck and end with most small a smoke bank and CT.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to be dry. So I said to A card, you just need to be looking for jewels all of the time. Down
Mm-hmm.
the banana, looking through middle, expect them walking through, and the same with underground. Let's be needing the door off and checking them, making sure they can't just sneak through at all times. Let's be ready for these timing plays because Boris plays so fast that everything Boris is going to do, it's going to be the first 20 seconds. Like I've played Boris multiple
Absolutely.
times, and
Yeah.
this is the same thing we've always said. We need to be ready for Boris in the first 20 seconds, and if he's not there, then he's probably dead if his 20 seconds has gone by because that's just the way he plays, or he sneaks through somewhere. That's
Yeah.
just the way he is.
Yeah.
And I think once we had talked about that so clearly, that made our CT sides way more confident before we even played because we
Mm-hmm.
had a very set game plan, which is very unusual to anyone else. Like usually, if you're playing Monster and Overpass, you're thinking, should I play anti-flash? Do we need to play further back? Well, no, you don't have to worry about it because they don't throw flashes when they go in.
Yeah.
It's
And
just the way they're set up.
then we go towards heroic as well, and so there was an interesting kind of narrative stat line. I was building it at the RMR. The guys, the Legends and Challenger stages, they were building it as well. Up until this point, there was no team in the world who were as good against underdogs as heroic. They just did not lose to the teams that, on paper, they were the better team at. And you're essentially the first underdog to ever really beat heroic. I mean, how did that feel? This is a team who, coming in towards the major, was essentially them and G2 were the best in the world. And essentially, the way G2 are playing, they were the best team in the world, and you've essentially beaten the top dogs. I mean, how did that feel? First of all, I mean, this is that itself is a monumental achievement. And there's the proof. You were saying, you wanted to play against a big team and prove yourself, and you did it on the biggest stage.
Yeah, I think that's what really validated the run. Like I think, like I said, even the teams that we beat, and everyone could just say, "Oh well, this team got eliminated." Well, yeah, because we eliminated them. But the same with heroic. Like this is the only team that shouldn't lose to us,
Yeah.
in my opinion, consistently because they're so good at what they do and they've got the track record. So beating them was kind of this is exactly what we've been saying. This is what I've been pushing forever. This is how good you guys can be because we've beaten a team which, in my opinion, is the best team in the world. Whenever I go to watch a demo, I'm always looking to heroic play this map. What can we learn
Absolutely.
from heroic? How are they going to play? So beating them there is definitely the biggest win of my career, and it's probably the biggest win of all of our players' careers, no matter what teams they've been on. And to do it in front of us on the main stage as well, I don't think there's any sort of way you could take anything away from us because we lost 5 of the 6 pistols. We didn't win any of the low buys in the entire series, I don't believe, and they won a few. They won clutches, but we also won clutches as well. I don't think there's any metric you can go, oh, that game was you played that exact series back that we should lose more than that because we lost way more of the rounds that you normally need to win a map than we should have done.
For sure.
And we played better on the day. Like I understand for sure that they had a lot of pressure on them, and that definitely worked in our favor. And the crowd went with them. It cost them, I
Yeah.
think, one round in particular until they told them to show up. But I think it was such a legit win that it just felt that was the best thing for me as a coach. It felt so legit. I think we played so amazingly well that it was just perfect to see.
And talk to me about that crowd as well. I mean, what was it like for you guys? I mean, we'll touch on the finals specifically on its own, but for the entire run that you had there, everyone loved you in the crowd, right? Cause obviously Kios definitely does help, right? Having that kind of a French speaking connection, but you guys became kind of mini fan favorites, obviously aside from the big fan favorites of Vitality. What was that like? You kind of, for the most part, apart from the grand final, you had so much support around you guys, and especially against heroic as well. That was a big thing. They were booed constantly, which they kind of thrive off a little bit, I think. But you guys were loved for the entire time. You had the support in front of you as well. All of the good stuff. How did that feel?
It was amazing. Honestly, it's probably it's probably the best experience I've had in maybe my life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Having them there because it was so loud. Like I've been to a lot of football games and stuff. Like I'm a big Liverpool fan, and I've been to Anfield stuff. And Anfield,
Good
when it's
lad.
really loud,
Good lad.
is one of the loudest stadiums out there.
Yeah.
And this was, in my opinion, this was louder than
Yeah.
Anfield. Even with the headset on, you could hear the drums. You could hear exactly what the people were chanting, like "Let's go Kios" and stuff like this, just all the time. And it was amazing. I don't think that, unlike Rio, where we were there and it was very hostile and there was a lot of cheating going on, like all the time. Like
Yeah.
people tried to cover it up. Like playing against Fury was one of the least legit games I've ever felt in my life from
Yeah.
how the cheering was going on. But no one wants to talk about that, so whatever. This felt different because they were actually just cheering. The Counter Strike was going on. I think that. Like I said, there was one round on Mirage where the crowd gave us a kill on Cadian. We were probably going to win the round anyway, but maybe not because Cadian's just
An
so
animal.
insta at times.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't win that, but that's the one round it happened, and then from there they shut the crowd up and they stopped doing it for
Yeah, they did.
a whole. Like even against Vitality, I can't complain against Vitality that we lost any rounds because of the crowd, and the crowd 100% wanted Vitality to win. So
Yeah.
playing for the crowd, I thought the crowd was amazing. It was the opposite to Rio. It was louder than Rio as well, which
Agreed.
is it was just amazing.
I gotta say as well, especially when obviously I don't know that it wasn't showed on stream, I don't think, but for us that were in there, Banks came out on the stage at kind of half time and he's like, right, don't do this because we'll turn the radar off and we're like, it'll be a worse very viewing experience for in the arena. But I gotta say the Vitality fans, they were very good, especially I remember when there was like instances where like two guys were in the smoke maybe and it was like whoever spots who first gets the kill kind of thing, and normally like in Rio they woo and then they get the kill, kind of what's happening. They would shush. Actually, they would do the opposite. They'd shush, and then the kill would happen. They'd cheer, like regardless of who got the kill. So I think I gotta say, like from my perspective, it looked like they were very good. There wasn't any cheating. I know there was conversations about it online, but no one in the arena thought there was any kind of like that. It happened like once, like you said, and then it was instantly shut up. But then the other side, what did it feel like then going from being like kind of heroes in a way to then you go towards Vitality, a little bit of a boo there, not that bad, but a little minor one, of course, because you were no longer fan favorites. You went from pretty instantly being loved by the crowd to then this day like, okay, now you're our enemies, even though we've loved you for the last kind of 2-3 days.
Yeah, so we knew this was going to happen. I just when we were backstage, just before we going on, I got them together and I said, like, guys, they're gonna boo you, and it's not because they hate you or anything like this. It's because they want to get in your heads a bit, and they want Vitality to win. Like they'd boo every single team in the world unless it was like Falcons or something. You were getting booed like 100%. So don't take it personally like this. It's still we're back to being underdogs, whatever, and just get out there and just laugh it off or whatever. And it was actually, as much as there was
Good.
a lot of booing in the first few seconds, it was actually good after that, and maybe they weren't cheering as loud as they were in the last games, but they were still getting proper round of applause and they were cheering the names and stuff like this. And I think it was really, that was what was nice to see. It wasn't like, again, like in Rio, we're going up and everyone's like slitting their throats and stuff when you look at the crowd and they're all booing and cheering and stuff. It wasn't like that at all. It was like friendly sportsmanship kind of thing. Like, yeah, we like you guys, but we don't need to win.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I thought it was great.
Absolutely. And just generally, kind of, I'm assuming probably as a whole, would you say kind of the best experience of your life, kind of getting that far in a major? I mean, obviously we had the not quite winning it in the end, but generally you've gone to the finals of the final ever CS:GO major. For you, is that just locked in as a core memory then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously it's really disappointing to lose, which is crazy to say. It's the best team, like I think that the event, and with the crowd behind them and they all wanting them to win, it was like their fairy tale. It was really it was an amazing experience. The only gripe I had with it at all was that I think it's the first time my parents have ever watched Counter Strike ever, and at the end in the final we didn't. They didn't. Nothing happened. It's like we didn't exist. I thought that was a bit weird. They didn't say Gamerlegion, come shake your hands, or bow to the crowd, or interview anyone. They just we just packed away and we went. And so even my dad and stuff said, that's a bit weird? Is it not for a final to not acknowledge the loser or anything like that? And I thought they focused too much on Vitality winning, and they had the whole day. And even then, they kind of broke up their celebrations to interview them. I thought it was a bit. They
It was
kind
a
of
bit
messed
weird.
that up a little bit at the end, but it was still. The whole experience was amazing. It was a sad way to end it, but everyone was so proud of themselves, and they should be, and I am too.
And just to touch just very briefly on that Vitality game, what for you guys kind of went wrong in your opinion, or do you think it was just more a case of on the day and probably at the tournament they were just the better team? Because throughout the entire tournament they very rarely looked like they were ever unfazed that much. Kind of what do you think kind of got them that victory over you guys?
I mean, I don't want to sound like it's deluded or anything, but I feel like if the maps were the other way around in the veto, we would have we would have gone to a third map in my opinion, because
Hey.
Nuke for us is not being a good map
Mhm.
at all, and it's for Vitality they're 9-0 or something on it, and it's like by far their best map, and we should have won Nuke, and we didn't play it a single time in this event. Our strat book, we kind of reset everything. Like Shui was like, yeah, nothing's working, let's reset everything on this map, and that's what we did. We broke it down, and we basically had no strats. It was just super basic defaults. On CT side, we had 2 or 3 basic rules and like one setup, and that was it. And we were just going to strip it down because nothing was working for us. But meanwhile, we had Overpass, which for them was a really poor map, and for us, we were like an 8 win streak or something. We were 93% or something like this, and we were crushing everybody. And then when we went to the final, we played that game. That we were the team that lost to the Mongols.
Yeah.
Lost to the Mongols on that day. We weren't the team that had beaten all the other teams.
Yeah.
And this is what I said between the games. This isn't a team that should be at the final. This is a team that was losing 0-2 on the first day. And you watch it, and Spinks was literally amazing in that game.
Mhm.
But the amount of times he got double kill where he should have got no kills or 1 kill,
Yeah.
because our spacing was a disaster. Our trading was non-existent. We didn't have initiative. When we ended rounds, we were nervous, and I think the whole occasion got to us in that one.
Yeah.
And
Do
it
you
was
think the
basically
pressure got
whatever
to you?
I think
Or got
having the
to you as a
crowd
team?
against us, I think having the crowd against us, and the whole, it's a major final. I think
Yeah.
that all built up in the moment. We weren't able to get over it, and we didn't show ourselves in that first map. And if it had been the other way around, we'd have played Nuke, we'd have lost 16-3 or something, and we're doing Smashed, and we'd be like, okay, guys, whatever, we got out of the way, let's go play Overpass.
Yeah.
And then the same thing we had on Nuke. We were 13-9 up or something like this,
Yeah.
chance to win the map. We'd have been an Overpass, which is way better for us and way worse for Vitality. And it'd have been a completely different game, because then all the pressure's on them then to get it over the line, rather than being on their best map, on their worst map. And in my opinion, we'd have won that one. And then when we played all of our third maps this event, we crushed the other team every single time, including Heroic, including OG.
Yeah.
We were by far the better team. And then I think that would have been an epic of a third map. And maybe the pressure would have got to us. Maybe we'd have even won it. I have no idea. But I think the other way around, it'd have been a much better final.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then now, right? You know, we look back at this with hindsight. We've already said about it's kind of it's a highlight of all of your careers, right? And of course, rightfully so. How do you then kind of continue going forward? You've peaked basically at the moment in terms of this is the biggest part of all of your careers. You as a coach, the players as well, the organization. This is the highest point in your career so far. So how do you then continue going forward? Of course, you look towards tier 1. No tier 1 team, unless they set up a dynasty like a Charlotte or whatever, no tier 1 team keeps up that consistency of remaining at the top. But for you guys as well, who aren't a partner team, how do you kind of keep the morale up, right? Because for you guys, you go from playing major finalists to then, I guess, not having invites directly to a lot of these tournaments unless you get through them on ESL rankings. So how do you kind of keep the morale up and keep I guess the work ethic up going forward off the back of what is the absolute the top of the top?
I think the first thing is we tried to talk about it. We had to say straight afterwards that we're going to tumble down the rankings. There's nothing we can do about it. Like you say we're not getting invited to tier 1 tournaments. We weren't even getting invited to tier 2 tournaments. The Bet Boom thing, we weren't even invited to it. We were a reserve team on that, and the other teams that are playing in it were like Movistar Riders, saw teams that are 50, 60, 70 of ranks, and we were 25th, and we weren't getting invited. We were saying, well, what's going on? Why are we not invited? Oh, you're a reserve team. So when we come in, we're playing in a group of Ensign Astralis because we're not seeded, and we just lose a close game. And then going into the event, everyone's like, oh, Gamerlegion are in terrible form. We were winning like 75% of our games online in all competitions against everyone, and just losing the finals. That's all that was going wrong for us. So coming back now, we'll probably get better opportunities for the next month or two, and then we'll have the problem that all tier 2 teams have, and that is that an NA team will win a cash cup and they'll get more points than we'll get winning a CCT against some of the best teams in Europe.
Yeah, like
there's nothing we can
play
do
all
about
of
that.
them, right? And it's like you beat them, but it doesn't count as much.
Well, we were in the ESL rankings before the major. Bear in mind, we qualified to the RMR. We were winning nearly all of our games against tier 2 competition, against literally every team. The tier 1 teams were coming in losing, and then we were beating the teams that they were losing to and get to finals. We were behind ATK in the rankings. We had four players on their roster, and they were losing points, and they were not winning anything. And we couldn't get past them, and that's the situation that we've been living in for a long time. And that if it's going to happen with Pro League, if some teams, national teams, they get a free spot to the league, the spot just before Pro League, because they just win the Turkish division, the Belgian division, the Spanish division, and for us to do that, we've got to win the MDL equivalent or something, which we don't play anymore because it's such a big commitment. And then when they win one game or even lose, they get 50 points, and for us to get that, we have to win a tournament. And I think that is literally absurd that it's like that, but that's just the way it is. And things even like Dallas, teams win a couple of games at Dallas, that's 100 points. That
Yeah.
we'll have to win multiple events to get 100 points, and that's just the way it is. So we're gonna take it one step at a time. We're definitely gonna stay more motivated. It's like I said before, we want to be more better and better and better all the time, and we want to be
Sure.
more consistent when we get to the next event, because people are going to expect us to win now. They're going to expect us to beat the OG and Mouse Sports and Apex and these teams that we did beat at this event.
Yeah.
And before we didn't have that. So we'll stay motivated. We're going to work to be harder than ever, and we'll just see what happens. We'll probably drop down the rankings. I just say that when we drop down the rankings, expect it. Everyone should expect this because we have no control of it. And it's the same as last time. Everyone said, where did Gamerlegion go after the major? Well, we were the same place we've always been, but we were winning more games than ever. Like people were saying we dropped off, but we were better than we'd ever been. And then we go to the next major and we nearly win it. So it's just, it is what it is. We're used to it now, and we'll see what happens.
It's like it's the system, isn't it? It's a weird way it's set up. But I want to get your thoughts as well. It was a big talking point in conversation throughout the major. It was about partner teams versus non-partner teams, because even in the champion stage, you had kind of, you know, yourself, Apex, Monty, etc. Right? You know, ITB as well, all non-partner teams who had got to the champion stage over quote-unquote partner teams. What's your thoughts on the kind of the whole partner system? Do you think there's kind of a, now people playing devil's advocate, that actually makes a lot of teams worse because they know they're guaranteed invites to tournaments just off the back of their wallet, essentially? What are your thoughts? As a team who is in a non-partner team but plays better than, as we've seen for the major, the vast majority of partner teams. What's kind of your thoughts on that?
I think people are a little bit wrong, because I think what people are trying to hint is that the teams aren't as motivated, and I don't think that, having worked in esports for forever, like you play with people in the UK scene coming 10th at a LAN and they're fuming all the time and they're wanting to work out and stuff like this. There's no way that these people are not wanting to win all the time. And I think the main problem is what people start to cotton onto now, which we've been saying for a long time, is they don't play anywhere near enough. And I think that, imagine you're a top player on like say for example Neofrag on OG, who's worked for a long time to get where he is. If he plays one tournament in 3 months and he has a bad first 2 games or something, even if he plays a good next 2 games, he's probably going to have a rating of like 1.02.
Yeah.
And that's all anyone's going to talk about on HLTV for the next 3 months is, Neofrag game out, is look at his rating, his stats are really bad, stuff like this. But he doesn't have the stats to feel confident. He doesn't feel confident at any point in his time he's playing. And then when he's playing practice, maybe he's playing amazing, but as soon as he goes to HLTV again, he's only playing the big events and he's only playing with these stats in his mind. And I think that if you take away the sample size from anyone, you're going to have anomalies. You're going to have people who expected to be better than they were because they had a good few maps in the tournament. Maybe they're not as good as they are. You get players who are really good who feel like they're not having an opportunity to shine. And when Monty play, for example, Monty, I think, is the best example, is they are just crushing everybody in tier 2. So when they go into a tournament, their worst rated player is 1.07 or something. He feels great. He feels like he's at the top of his game. Like even though he's playing against bad players, he feels so confident. Like you do that in practice and no one cares because it's practice and whatever. At least playing consistently there and being tested all the time, having to make game plans, having to meet at a certain time. It's not just a practice stage, something that you need to win.
Absolutely.
It gets you in a mentality of you get used to winning. And I think that happened with Monty, that they're a team that doesn't play amazing CS, but they're used to winning. They just win and win and win. They grind it out and they beat people, they out aim them and stuff all the time. You can't do that unless you're playing all of the time. Like imagine Monty didn't play it all and wouldn't play that style. They'd be like, what the hell are we doing? This is a disaster and stuff like this. And I think teams that are ignoring those events are struggling. I think even the teams that were dropping down into these events need a mentality change, because whenever we play these CCTs, every single time we're due to play a favorite, they lose. Every single time. It was Fnatic, NIP, like any single tier 1 team that dropped down, they would lose and we wouldn't get to play them because they were just it feels like their mentality is, oh my god, we can't afford to lose this game straight away. And I think they need to start respecting the other teams a bit more, in terms of we can't just expect a free win. And I think teams are really struggling with that side of things. But we have this same thing. I don't think it's a fair assessment to just say our tier 1 teams that it's fine for them to lose because the other team plays with no pressure. We play against tier 3, tier 4 teams all of the time, and we never lose to these teams, or we almost never, unless it's a really off day. But we have the same pressure that they do, but maybe with less eyes on us. It's about the pressure on yourselves, not the external pressure, right? You can't say I'm losing because I've got more fans than you. It's the pressure you put on yourselves. I think they need to be playing more tournaments. I think we'll see that. I think a lot of the orgs have seen from this event that they need to be playing way more, and they can't just play practice, because practice is not officials. Practice doesn't set you up at all. And we've played so many so many times in practice we play against a team like G2 and Hooks, he's literally amazing, but it doesn't matter for him if he's playing the best practice of his life because his stats say he's bad on HLTV.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of teams say this as well. Hooks has been amazing in practice, but he's probably got no confidence when it comes to officials because in officials his stats are bad. So
Yeah.
I think it's unfair on a lot of people. It doesn't get people to show the best that they are and they can't get as comfortable.
And for you guys, how do you find the perfect blend between? I mean, you got kind of two polar stories of kind of the MAJORs coming in towards the tournament, playing like fuck all basically, there's no tournaments essentially. They're playing nothing online, not touching any of it. Then you got Monty playing literally anything that they can possibly play, they will play in. How do you find that perfect blend between kind of playing as much as you can where it's good, but then obviously there's gonna come a point where the positives you're getting from playing as much, you start to get burnout, you start to kind of get, you know, all of these instances where you're playing a little bit too much. How do you find that kind of perfect blend? And what for you guys is that kind of that perfect amount where you're playing enough but not too much?
I think that comes a lot down to the coach, like a lot down to the coach. So
Okay.
the amount, like for example, our team would play every single competition they could play in if they wanted. There's never been a situation where I've asked our players, "Yo, guys, do you want to lose some off days to play competition?" They've said no. Every time it's yes, yes, yes. And I'm getting from Gamerlegion as well. Obviously, they're getting invites. They're saying, "Oh, this tournament here, this tournament here," and that's up to me from my playing experience and experience of just
Mhm.
knowing the players to go, actually, we need some off days. We haven't had off days in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We can't be practicing every single day. And then on our off days, we're playing officials, then go back to practice again because everyone gets fed up of playing the game. You get fed up of being around each other. You get fed up of having no time with your family and stuff like this. And you need that time to get away. And I'll say in the play break as well, guys, I think it's great that you want to play CS, but you shouldn't play anywhere near as much now.
Mhm.
You should be getting away from the computer because there's going to be a point where it's going to get too much and you're going to hate wanting to play the game and you're going to feel like it's a real chore to be here.
Yeah.
So I think you have to manage that a lot and you have to understand that, yeah, we need to be playing, we need to be sharp and all this stuff, but we can't play everything all the time and we can't just look at every tournament like it's a free win if we play that thing. I think it's worked for Monty and stuff, etc. And I think that's great for them. But in my opinion, I think over time that will not be a good thing. And if you get people demotivated, that's when you lose them. And that's when it's really hard to keep the team together.
And well, funny enough, the next question we were talking about, what I want to talk about is kind of along that same vein. Obviously, we look towards the major, and a couple of your boys are pretty damn good performances. IM was the second highest rated player. Going into the final, he was the highest rated player at the tournament, and he was on track for the MVP, which in itself is unbelievable. He had one of the best tournaments we've seen of anybody, especially kind of a non-veteran, basically all throughout CS:GO. It was unbelievable. And then obviously we look towards Shuhei as well. He's attracted a lot of attention, being one of the best young IGLs probably we've got at all, like period. Especially in kind of up and coming IGLs. You've even got people like Carrigan saying that this guy is, you know, the next up and coming, and the whole team has had eyes across them, right? For you guys, what is that kind of like? Where it's gone from a different side of attention, where it's now, you know, the everyday fan looking at these guys and the online chatter about what's next for them. How do you kind of, in terms of interest of the players, what was that like in terms of the team? Because obviously, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of interest from big organizations with bigger wallets looking towards maybe a player or two. How do you then have conversations about kind of the future of a team if you don't know if the future is secure?
I think we had one talk. I don't know when we had it, but we had one talk and basically said that everything's been amazing, and now we just need to kind of see what happens because no one's naive here or anything. We all know that people will be looking at the players and everything like
For sure.
this. And the main talk was if we do have to make changes, which maybe happens, maybe it doesn't happen,
Mhm.
we'll be ready to just go and we just continue again. And we just, like I said before, every single time we've ever made a roster change, we've been better than the last
Of
team.
course.
Even when we lost Mezzi and we had to bring Dobbo in who had no experience, we were better as a team because
Mhm.
we change everything, we work around it, and that would be the same objective again. Is to let's be better. Like maybe obviously that if you just say being better is winning the major, then I think that's a bit ridiculous. But you can be better as a team still overall. So yeah, everyone kind of knows that there's interest in all of our players, and
Mhm.
everyone kind of respects it. It's just we'll see what happens. We'll see if Gamerlegion can keep everyone together. Hopefully we can, and we can keep
Mhm.
going forward. But it's just is what it is, and whoever's here still, we'll give everything we've got. We'll just to make the next team as good as we can.
Absolutely. Obviously, I'm not going to ask for details, but has there been, conversations and interest about players here or there? Has there been anything already? Obviously, we're now moving in towards the player break, and it's a perfect time for not only yourselves but top teams to be rebuilding and maybe making inquiries. Has there been word or anything, or right now is everything sticking together?
I mean, of course, there's teams sniffing around like 100%, and they
Mhm.
want our players. I mean, I can't blame them. The guys we've got are unbelievable. So
Yeah.
I don't really have too many ins and outs, and I definitely wouldn't share them either if I did. But
Smart man.
yeah, I mean, the guys, everyone understands how good they are, and obviously teams are interested. So we'll just have to
Sure.
see what happens.
Absolutely. Final question then. I just want to touch on a friend of mine and, of course, a colleague of yours, our good buddy Monster. I mean, how important is kind of he as an analyst? Of course, for those who at home don't know, he's the analyst for Gamerlegion Monster. How important is he to kind of the success of the team and kind of your working relationship with him?
I mean, it's especially at events, having an analyst is super important, and I think Munster's main is by far his biggest quality is how hardworking he
Mm-hmm.
is, like 100%. Like if we have a best of three and I need to do three maps, he'll just do it instantly. Like, every single time he'll do it, And I think a lot of analysts probably wouldn't be that receptive to do it, and that's kind of his main strength. He just wants to work as hard as he can all the time, and he's super eager to do it. So at events when you have no time and you finish in one game at 10 p.m. and your next game is at 11 a.m.,
Yeah.
that's when it's more important than ever. I would say by
Mm-hmm.
100%. Having
And
a guy there is really good.
for you, I mean, how important is he in terms of setting up the team strategy and like the game plan? I guess going into it. I know obviously you've had your look, you have your conversations pre-game, but how important is he to kind of what you're actually going to do in towards the game, or is it more just like if this is what we're looking towards in terms of this is how this certain team plays? Is he more kind of anti-stratting, or does he help actually for you formulate a plan of how you're going to take down the team?
I'd say he's more anti-strain. I would say if it's a game plan, I've even said to him I don't want him to do the game plan. I
Okay.
don't want his responsibility. I think my experience I should be the one
Mm.
doing that. And I talked to Shuibai, but what kind of happens is he'll do everything. He'll write everything down, and then I'll read it through and I'll question him, and I'll try and figure out kind of what he means by everything that he's written and what conversation, and
Sure.
then after that I'll come up with the game plan. I'll be like, oh, he if this team's like, oh, they're gonna do execute here, and it's always executes for this, well, I'll go talk to the players and I'll be like, yeah, okay, let's keep our utility when they throw it. So we'll use our own utilities. Just stuff like this. That'll be where the game plan comes from. And especially if I see something a warm up like we did with Monty, for example, where I saw they were just contacting Never for nades, I'll then say, oh, have you seen the same things sort
Mm.
of thing here? And then I could kind of figure out, is that just a map thing or is it kind of a thing they're doing across all the maps? So
Okay.
that's kind of the way it normally works, I would say.
For sure, for sure. Well, that concludes kind of the CS:GO section. We'll touch on a bit of random questions on Twitter and Reddit. Some of these are serious, some of these not so much. We'll start with some of the serious ones. The first one I really liked as well. And I was going to add it in the main text, but I thought I'd save it. So someone wants to ask about Shuhei. Obviously, there's been a lot of kind of when the players have been interviewed. You look at kind of like A-Course, especially one of the most experienced players on the team. Everybody talks about how this guy is just unbelievable as an IGL, right? He is super smart, very good to work with. All the players absolutely adore him when it comes towards interviews and so saying how good he is. What makes Shuhei so good? Because all the conversation right now is how he's one of the best up and coming IGLs we've got in the world. What makes Shuhei so good?
I would say if I had to pick standout things, I would say two things. I would say one is the way he watches a demo is insane a little bit. Like he'll kind of watch one demo, speed through it, barely be checking, like barely even being paying attention to it sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
he'll understand so many little things in that demo instantly that, for example, if I was to watch it, I'd have to watch the whole thing twice and rewatch it
Okay.
and figure out again. It feels like it's kind of like cheating a little bit that he's kind of able to just do it like that, but
Yeah.
he understands so many little things. I think especially when it comes to make his own game plan, it's such a bonus to have that because he can just be like, oh yeah, Ashen wants to you go do your own thing, figure out the prep, whatever. And then an hour before the game just goes, I'm just going to speak for this demo. Okay, I understand how to play. And then when it's calling, he'll have all these things in mind, and he's able to keep them there and work around them. And I think that is something 99.9% of people probably can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I say his other things, his personality, like he's super relaxed. I think he had quite a lot of adrenaline in this event, but
Yeah.
he's still able to be joking and laughing, and this is the whole kind of CS I'm trying to promote is to play without stress, and you can't play without stress if you have five super serious individuals, right?
Yeah.
And that was how we kind of built a team. Kind of around the personalities were really really important to me, and he was kind of the cherry on top, as in that's exactly how he wants to play as well. It's kind of a similar outlook, I guess, he has. And he's someone who never really stresses. Like even when he's frustrated, he's good at balling up or just letting it go and focusing on something else.
Won't show.
So I'd say those things.
Mm-hmm. And just to add on to that from my side, what's his calling style like? Is it more of a kind of a loose on the fly kind of just adapting to situation, or is it kind of does he have these set defaults and ideas and kind of relies on them in terms of he like you said he goes through the demos, he has his ability to understand what they're going to do, so he knows kind of how to react to it, or is it just a little bit kind of looser?
I would say it's a mixture. I would definitely say it's a mixture. I think most callers are kind of 60% defaults,
Mhm.
40% fast, or the way around. Maybe it's something like this. I think he is almost bang on spreading everything out, and there's no part of the game we don't do. We'll have contacts, we'll have bursts, we'll have pops, we'll have executes. Like every single part, there is no part that we won't do, and
Mhm.
I think he's really, really good. His main strength as a caller is he's really good at mixing up the tempo. He's good at whereas I'm in the background writing down what we've done, what we've done, what we haven't we done, trying to mix
Mhm.
it up. He's got it in his head, and he's instant like, oh yeah, this round on overpass that we've rushed along. Okay, now we're going to do B contact, and now we're going to do a fast underground default, and we do a slow round, and he
Okay.
makes it really hard for the team to mix up. But also he's really good at for anti-stratting of just making slight adjustments. I think that's another like big strength. Like if you got something that you've been doing like kind of a lot, he'll throw in a little tell there, which is something I feel like when Ingham did something exactly the same, and you just having a tiny little change. Oh, this round we're not going to throw a flash. I was going for a random double nade, and then the other team's thinking, oh well, it's always not that round because I've never done that before, and then you
Mhm.
hit them with the round again. So it's
Okay.
kind of a mixture of everything. I think that is the meta way of calling now, but it's kind of perfect for him, I would say.
Yeah. Fair enough. Another one asked, so he said, would love to get a brief take on why players from the UK have been underrepresented in EU for a long time, and whether you think that perhaps that might be changing now with the recent success of ITB and other teams like Viperia.
I think it'll definitely change. Like 100%. It's one of the worst things I had when I was coming through was there was no role model. The only role model you had was Rattlesnake, and he was retired, and he was the guy known for screaming at people and
Yeah.
just being really impossible to play with
Yeah.
and whatever. And I think having like especially Mezzy, like having a guy who anyone can contact, like you could probably add Mezzy on Steam right now and encourage you to go annoy him and,
Yeah. He's the
and add him
nicest dude
and get
ever,
forward to him.
literally. The nicest
He's the
guy.
nicest guy ever. He'll always help everyone all the time, and he's not got any controversy about him. He's super boring like that, so it's fine. He'll never say anything he shouldn't do.
I love
He's
Alex.
good in
I love him.
interviews. He's good in interviews and everything. So yeah, I mean, having people like that is super important. I think in the past, I think the main thing is a culture in the UK still 100%. Like you would not be able to go to London or anywhere else and get the same crowd that you had in Paris
Mhm.
because the only people you get there that are like that are tourists and stuff coming in and supporting the teams. You will
Yeah.
not get a random person off the street to go and watch an esports event. You give the tickets out for free, they'll go in there, they'll complain, they'll leave, and that's
Mhm.
the way it is. No one understands gaming at all. I still get asked now, and they're always like, "Oh, yeah, what do you do? Do you coach?" Like, "Oh, you just play all these random games and stuff." I'm like, well,
Trying
no.
to explain my job to people. I commentate video games. It's just
But
impossible.
it was somewhere like in Denmark, like I said to my dad and stuff like this, like they win a tournament, they meet the president or
President,
whatever,
yeah.
prime minister, whatever
He
it's
came
called
out a
in their country.
blast. I mean, he came out and like you never have any UK
No
president come.
chance.
We had a MSI. I don't really know league at all, but I know apparently it's pretty big. No chance of having
Yeah.
anyone
But
who's official kind of talking at that.
no, I mean the most you get is probably an article on BBC, which just be half of it would just be insulting gamers and stuff like this, and
Yeah.
it'd be more of a slap in the face than it would be an accomplishment or anything like this. So
Mm.
I'd say the media is definitely not helping with that, and just the culture. It's just the UK is so far behind in terms of online stuff. It is just unbelievable. No one gets it.
Yeah.
The most you'll get on around here is maybe some kids play Fortnite, maybe some kids play FIFA, and that's it. That's literally it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another one says, do you believe that teams truly underestimated Gamerlegion, or do you think that the gap between tier one and tier two is smaller than ever before? Because that was another conversation. I think a lot of people were talking about how that gap between tier one and tier two, in quotation marks, because no one even knows what the definition of tier one and tier two even is, but is closer than it's ever been, especially with yourselves, the likes of yourselves, Apex, Monty, ITV, all making the champion stage.
I'm gonna say the opposite of what was said 2 days ago, and that is I don't think anyone underestimated us because I've watched a few of obviously I watch everything on YouTube and stuff like this, all the
Yeah, yeah.
content and stuff like this, and the Navi videos and stuff, and they're talking about us before the game and stuff, and they're saying, oh yeah, these guys they might not have the best players and stuff, but they're really hard to play against, and we play regularly against a lot of the top teams and
Mhm.
in practice, and we never get blown out by them ever. We're probably winning more than we lose anything. So I wouldn't
Mhm.
say in any of those instances teams were underestimating us, especially not at a major, like especially not as
Yeah.
we're going further and further, like 100%. No one's looking at us going through the legend stage and going, oh, Gamerlegion, they're going to be an easy win and stuff like this. Like everyone's taking everyone seriously. The same way we took the Mongols seriously, the same way we took everyone
Sure.
seriously. So I don't think in that sense anyone expected a free win. Maybe they thought they were favourites, and that probably played against them a little bit with the pressure. And in terms of tier 1, tier 2, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that us and Apex and Monty are the best teams in the world, because I don't think if you put over enough sample, that would be the case. I think that the tier 1 teams are really out of shape. They're in a really poor position. I think the teams have been built poorly. I think that there's a lot of people in these organizations who don't really know what they're doing, or they don't know what they want, and the second one thing happens, they have to react off it. They have to try and they're trying to be ahead of what the fans will say all the time. They're trying to be really clever, and there's a lot of people who don't have experience. They're bringing people not esports experience, stuff like this, and they're making weird decisions. And I think a lot of them are set up poorly, and I think they're probably lacking confidence as well, because they're finding no consistency. And I don't know. Hopefully you see them fixing it. Maybe they're seeing this is it could also be a stage that we're just seeing a lot of good young players going through at the same time. I think only time will tell if the gap's smaller. I think it's smaller than it ever has been in terms of the teams can beat the tier 1 teams, because I think in the past none of the tier 2 teams could ever beat the tier 1 teams in the best of 3 ever.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And now we're seeing it at this event consistently.
And
in other events, like same with Movistar and Fours, same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, Movistar just won the ESL Challenge in Melbourne as well. Again, they wouldn't even expected to make it there. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Along the same vein, another guy asks, are we only watching the kind of the top 12 teams every event because they're paying the right people instead of playing the best game? So is it more? I guess it's similar to what I talk on partner teams earlier, right? It's asking, are we only watching them basically every event because they pay the right people rather than actually being the best teams as well? Like if it was a completely open circuit, would we consistently see those teams always there?
Oh no. I mean, you look at any qualifier ever. The number 1 seed never makes it ever.
Yeah.
Like I swear. I think Endpoint have been seeded every single qualifier they've ever played in some events, and I've never seen them qualify to it ever. I've seen Astralis come down. I've seen NIP and all these amazing teams come down, and they won't even get to the best of 3 stage, regular stuff like this. And like the main problem with Blast and Pro League and stuff like, for example, Blast, we had to play a 512 team qualifier or something and come first, which we did. Which we could replay that tournament 10 times and probably never make it again. And then we go through to a close qualifier, we get through that, and then we play another close qualifier. So we have to be our absolute best on 3 different days. It's like it's a system that's designed to not let us through. They don't want us to come through. Like that's exactly how they've done it. They've made it the least possible way to go through, because they don't want us there. It's just as simple as that. They're going, oh, here's your Cinderella team, we'll throw them in there. And the same thing that happens with Pro League and stuff. Yeah, Fours or something, or Movistar go and get an amazing run. But what happens? Well, they've got to qualify to the next one again. Like it doesn't matter if they could win the whole thing and they're qualifying to the next one again, because they just don't want those teams there. It's just the way it is, and I guess it's sucking for the viewers now as well. But I mean, what else in the industry? I mean, if everyone's overpaying the players and they put themselves in a situation where they can't make money, then this is a situation we've been put in now, that everyone's screwed themselves over. We've screwed the industry over. We've been too greedy, and something's got to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Another guy asked, are you pretty bummed that like coaches don't get stickers? Obviously, the players get stickers. You don't get immortalized in the same way. Are you bummed that coaches don't get them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that, especially the majors, that just really suck. I mean, even going before the major, we were facing a very real situation where they weren't going to pay for us to fly there. They weren't going to pay for our rooms or meals or anything, because Valve just don't want us there. And I can barely even blame Valve. It's a bunch of coaches just cheated as hard as they could, and some of them even now are still here pretending nothing happened, and I've got to sit here in the background, and I'm not allowed to move. I'm getting warned for moving too much when we went around. I'm silently celebrating all the time, and because these guys cheated and they want to come here and pretend in practice and stuff like everything's okay. Well, it's not okay. And even with stuff afterwards, like the pins and stuff, we don't get the pins for winning that. We don't get anything. There's we weren't even involved in media. They don't interview us or anything. The only reason we got interviewed on stage against Heroic is because Banks pushed it. Because Banks was like, yeah, let's try and show coaching in a positive light. Get you exist up here, and we'll go and do some stuff. And we'll have a talk. I mean, it sucks, especially at this event. I mean, I've not been at Pro League, I've not been at Blast. Maybe it's a bit different there, and they get coaches more involved. But it's such an afterthought, which, in my opinion, I think every team needs a coach. Like they really need a coach, and everything is kind of built around the coach in a lot of these teams. Like it's really important to have the structure and everything, and have someone having that say with more experience. But then going to these events, it's really annoying and frustrating, to be honest, that we're treated as not even an afterthought. We're treated like we don't want to be there, and it is what it is. We've got to put up with it and just whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, this is probably the last serious one for a little bit. Someone asks, I guess you kind of actually touched on this a little bit earlier, but about idols. Is there any coaches that for you are kind of when you were getting towards the coaching game, are a bit of an idol, or any kind of coach that you base your coaching style off in that sense?
I'm going to say yeah, but it's not going to be the person you think it's going to be.
Okay, who is it?
It's going to be Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, my go.
It's not going to be like I won't going to pick a CS player. Like it's the same thing like you said with the dreams of like I think most people just say, oh, I want to win a major. Like it was never my dream. I never had a coach growing up. I just kind of want to be the best I can. Like I've asked people for advice and been ignored quite a lot of time. Like the only person that's really been helpful from a coaching point of view, I would say, is Keita, who's actually replied and been useful sometimes when I've asked him. But I've asked multiple pro ones that never really asked. But I'd say the way Jurgen Klopp has got, he's kind of always had my standard situation where he's kind of had a team that's never expected to win, or a team of people that people don't really believe in, and he tries to get the most out of them. It's kind of the way he kind of. I would say Jurgen Klopp isn't even the most tactically amazing coach, and probably isn't even above like that much above average as a tactical coach. But his people, the way he gets the best out of people is unbelievable. The way he talks, it's magical, and obviously I'm not even 1% of the coach that guy is, but if I think that as a person to have as an idol, that is that guy. And I know even one of the silly questions is, would you start Klopp? And I wouldn't start Klopp if we nearly got relegated this year. He's the perfect guy for the club, and he's got a great personality, and he's the guy that I think is just perfect as a coach.
As a Liverpool fan, I couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. So we got into a few random ones. We'll start with one that Isaac asked, and he said, "Why do you use push to talk to limit yourself from communicating faster?" What's the story there?
So this is a joke on me saying, because one of the things I despise is voice activation. I hate it because you play practice, you play officials, and you play a round out, and someone will go, "Oh, you're muted." They'll go, "Oh, I was saying all this stuff," and they'll be having a team meeting, and afterwards they'll go, "Oh, I just said loads of things and no one replied. I was muted," and stuff like this all the time. "Oh, sorry guys, I was muted. Oh, I didn't make this call. I was muted," all the time, because instead of just moving the thumb slightly to press the button on the side of the mouse, they'll just talk, and it's a habit thing. Like I remember when I was first playing, I had voice activation as well, and I'm watching a video on Steel doing it, and he was like, "Oh, it's really, really important that you're able to use push to talk, and you need to get used to it and stuff like this." And one of the things I used to do to get used to it was I would go on deathmatch. I wouldn't be in TeamSpeak or anything. I would just press my button, and I would practice talking, be like, "Yeah, I've killed one here, and watch out here." So this, I just get used to it, and then I can actually play like that. But that means that there's never a situation ever where my mic's muted. Never. Like every time I say something, it's coming through the microphone. There's never like we had it with Link in Vex all the time. The amount of time he'd be muted 30% of rounds, and you'd miss so much information. You get teammates killed, and then imagine you die because someone didn't say anything. It's so frustrating, even if you also use voice activation. So I hate that. It limits everyone, but everyone in the team is using it now. Even Emma is using it now, and he wasn't using it before. So
I love it.
Whatever.
I've had a couple of the same question, primarily from Cypher and Shuhei, and they specifically ask, "What shampoo do you use, and what's the hair care routine?"
My hair care routine is to go to the barbers, get it as short as possible, and then have a shower and use Head and Shoulders.
Oh, we love to see it.
And then obviously oil it up and make it as shiny as possible, So
yeah. Is there any reason why you like you don't grow it out at all, or just don't think it suits you?
Just hair's kind of thinning at the back, and I had it for years. It's kind of thinning since I was like 25 or something. So I can grow it out and it looks okay, but if you look from above or the light or it gets wet or something, it's just a bit whatever. So like I think a year ago or something, I said I'd rather just get rid of it and get used to it.
I respect it. To follow that, someone asked, "How does it feel to be relegated?" But knowing you're a Liverpool fan, obviously you haven't. I'm assuming they're under the assumption you're a Leeds fan.
I don't know, because Monster knows I'm a Liverpool fan. So this I didn't understand this. I was thinking like, what could he must be talking about Leeds. So
you must be talking about Leeds, yeah.
I don't care. I mean, I play cricket all the time, and everyone here is a Leeds fan, and I just do not care. They talk about Leeds all the time, and it annoys me so much. So whatever.
So how come you support Liverpool actually instead of Leeds?
Because a lot of my family are from or live in Liverpool. Sorry, they're not from Liverpool. They live in Liverpool, and I've all my cousins that I used to grow up with are like 7 or 8 years older than me, and
Right.
they used to bully me really hard about it when I didn't really support anyone because I was
Yeah.
like 8 or 9 or something. They'd be like, "Oh, why you supporting Liverpool and Leeds are bad and Sheffield Wednesday are bad," and so it's like teams near me and whatever. And I think eventually I was like, I kind of want to watch football, and I need to pick a team. And Michael Owen was kind of the guy when I was 10 years old, and I remember he scored 2 goals in the FA Cup final, like
Yeah.
really close, and won the game. And I was like, wow, this young English guy who's rapping is really good. I like this team. I'm just going to follow this team. And rather than because my dad doesn't support any football team, or I didn't at the time. He kind of just let me choose it. 'Cause I think a lot of families you grow up with whoever your family sports, right?
Yeah,
And
of course.
my
Yeah.
family didn't support anyone, so I went with my cousins, and I stuck with that then and went through a lot of bad years to as a Liverpool fan. So
Fair enough. Another one, and I was going to include this in another section, but I thought I'd just drop it down here. Do you have any hobbies and kind of stuff you like doing outside of esports? Obviously, you spoke about cricket, you spoke about football. Do you have, like alongside with those, what are kind of your hobbies and interests outside of esports? If we're taking a break from the game, what do you like doing?
I mean, the main ones are sports, like 100%. Like, for example, I've watched Formula 1 yesterday. I don't really support anyone, but I like watching it most weeks. Football is the biggest one, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Watching Liverpool. I used to go to the games, like at Anfield, quite often. It's like an hour train,
Yeah.
not too far. I didn't have a season ticket because you need to be on the season ticket list for like 20 years or something to get
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
so it was
It's long.
impossible. So I did that. I used to play 5-a-side football every week until I went full time, and then it was just impossible because we finished practice and then I'd have to eat and get to the place in like 10 minutes. And
It's impossible. Yeah.
in the end, I packed it, and it was either I'd end practice early just so I can go outside, or I just don't go.
Mm.
So I fell out of that routine and stopped going. Um, and cricket, I really like cricket. I mean,
Oh,
play
big
cricket.
cricket.
I'm not.
I'm a fan.
I play cricket. I'm not so good at it. I'm like
Are you a
I play.
batter or a bowler?
I'm a batter for sure.
Yeah.
I played first team cricket for most of my life, but then as
Lad.
esports took over, I wasn't able to. I guess same thing. I wasn't able to go to training, and
Yeah.
to go to playing first team cricket, you have to practice all the time, or
And
they don't
the
pick you.
games are
So,
long. Like even a T20 game, you're still there for like 3-4 hours. So like
or
you start playing test matches, you're there for days. So
we play on Saturdays. Normally, I get to the ground at 11:30, and I get home for 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or
yeah.
something like this. And after you've had a drink afterwards, or whatever. And yeah, so Saturday cricket, practice on Tuesdays. Now we've got some time off. And otherwise, I just watch sports and do. I don't know anything. I'm not used to having breaks. This is the weird thing. We're in a play break now. I'm not used to it. And normally, whenever we have a break, I'm here doing something in the background. I'm talking, like connecting the social media team or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
management side or the players or watching demos or whatever. So having this time now, it's really weird. I'm not really used to it at all, to be honest.
Fair enough, fair enough. Another one asks, Shaney asks, why do you actively choose corn on the cob over gravy at KFC?
He says this because I played EPS finals with him in London, which is the only time I've been to London.
Yeah.
And we went down there and I had it once. We had KFC and I was like, I don't want gravy because gravy is just weird to me after having that food. So I just went with corn on the cob. I like to try things. Like whenever's I
Fair
don't. I'm
enough.
not the person who goes to a restaurant and gets the same thing. I like to get a different thing every time and just try
Good lad.
things.
Penultimate question then of the whole interview is this guy asked, is there any upcoming prospect players that you've noticed that you maybe think are underrated or don't get enough credit? Is there any kind of, maybe like tier 2, 3 or whatever players that you think are really good but don't get enough kind of attention, I guess?
Yeah, loads. There's just so much talent.
Give us a
It's
list.
unbelievable number of talent. I think that the guy at the moment I'm most impressed by is maybe he's not as upcoming is Norway. I think from
Yeah.
Aurora. I think
Mhm.
that guy. Like I think a lot of these players that you look at, and like for example Boris. Like I think Boris is probably the best aimer other than Nico. Maybe
Mhm.
he's that unbelievable. But I don't like the style he plays. He's either gonna run over and kill you, or he's gonna lose you the game. And he's just gonna
Mhm.
die and die and die and die and die. But he's good enough that he can make it work. But I
Mhm.
like with Norway that he plays difficult positions on CG sides, and on T sides he plays a team game. He's not one of these entry fraggers who needs a smoke and a flash and a team to hold this and this for him. He just does what the team needs him to do. If he needs to entry, he'll go in first on the set strat. He'll push him when the time is right. And I think that guy's really hard to play against. And just watching, like I watch so much random CS for some reason. I
Mhm.
just do, and I watch that guy every time I watch him. I'm never questioning what he's doing, and these mechanics are really good as well.
Fair
So
enough.
I would definitely say him. I think Kakanito from Endpoint as well. He'll be
Yeah.
an amazing team. But the only thing I ask for that is that everyone doesn't go, oh, Endpoint, another gem when they sell him to some amazing team. Go, oh, Endpoint on Earth, Kakanito. Like Kakanito's been a 1.2 rated player for 12 months. It's the
Yeah.
same way that everyone credits Mezzi for endpoint. Mezzi was at endpoint for 3 months. He was at Gamerlegion for way longer. He was the highest rated player at MDL. He's been with me his entire career up until that point, and everyone goes, "Oh, endpoint developed Mezzi." Like,
No.
I don't know how they come to that conclusion. It's just absurd. So, those two are the ones I really like, and there's a lot of upcoming young players that are really, really talented as well. Like Mattis as well, I think has been amazing from Sampi. I think every time I watch him, like, this guy is really talented, and there's honestly, I could go on for ages with names. There's so many amazing players.
And there was actually a second part to it. The guy also asked, is there any players in the UK that you think, like young up-and-coming players, like I guess probably anything outside of IETB and endpoint that you think are like top level, could actually play like international level Counter-Strike professionally?
I mean, the problem is that I don't watch EPS. I don't watch the Epic Lands or anything, and usually I'm busy when a lot of these things are going on. So I don't watch them, and I know that one of the things that Neil M said a long time ago is that people always ask him who are the upcoming players, upcoming teams, but if you don't watch them, it's hard to say this or this, because what happens is you don't mention one of the obvious ones, and that team people get really upset. And I know in the past I haven't said, like, I think an obvious one at the moment is Azu, which I've never mentioned before, but I've never seen him play ever, so I can't say that.
Player, to be fair to him.
Azu's a great player. All I know is he's got good stats and he's doing well on that team. So I don't know. And obviously Cypher and Volt are the obvious ones, but they're playing into the breach, and those are the two I've seen more of because they're playing with like people like Adam 913 and stuff who are good friends when I watch other games. So at the moment I don't know, but I just know there's a lot of good players that's playing in the UK.
Absolutely. For just to kind of touch on the ICB as well, I guess you're kind of a guy who's kind of, you've seen them go up the ranks, and now of course at the champion stage alongside yourself. What do you think happens to them? Obviously, there's all the rumors about people inquiring about Cypher, people inquiring about Rawl and Crucial, etc. There's a a world in which that team gets poached. What do you think the future's looking like for them? Because they're not the biggest organization, they won't be on the biggest wages, but if a bigger team with bigger paychecks come by, it kind of feels inevitable. What do you think happens?
They're probably in a similar situation to us, I would say. That it's just a bit unknown. I think I honestly don't know what they want to do. That maybe they decide that the only reason they've got the UK players is because they're just the best players out there. And I honestly could see a world where Cypher's the best entry out there, Volt's the best anchor sort of player out there, hybrid player, Thomas is one of the best callers out there, and that's why you get them in. They probably got picked because maybe it was slightly because of the UK, but I think it was quite an easy choice as well to get those guys in. Maybe they just decide to go international. I've got an idea. Maybe they're going to do everything they can to keep it. I know they've got. When it feels like the amount of times I watch like something like Trackmania or something, I see Into the Breach player, and I'm like, oh
yeah, they're amazing.
I didn't know Into the Breach had these other teams, stuff like this. So maybe they've got a bigger organization than I realized, maybe, or something, or more money. I've got no idea. So
I think they're big in Dota
obviously
as well,
like to see them together.
So
I've got no idea, but I'd like to see them together. Maybe they look to the next UK people. But like I said, I don't know who they would be because I don't watch anywhere near enough. I don't talk to enough people in the UK scene.
Fair enough. Final question then, and I guess this one is pretty important for your job and career. What's your thoughts on CS2? Nervous, excited for the change? Have you had any chance to kind of really have a go on it, have a look at it? What's your thoughts?
No, don't get a chance to play it because obviously Valve hits coaches. So I think every single top 30 team had just basically got, if you said you didn't have it, you got it instantly. I hadn't seen a single instance where someone did tweet about it and didn't get it.
I think apparently if you'd ever played at a major, they had your Steam ID and you automatically got it. Because I know Kukli got it, but he's VAC banned, so you couldn't even play it. But he did a tweet saying I've got it. So I think if you've ever played at a major, but when it was initially the beta came, or the initial thing came out, then you instantly got an invite.
Yeah, I think everyone, all the top players kind of have it if they want it. To be honest, if I had it, I'd only play it to see what it's like. I wouldn't be interested in learning or anything like that. It's just like any sort of thing. It's like bringing a new map in. Like, you need to be open-minded about it. You need to try and go figure out what's good in it. And CS2 is going to be exactly the same. Like, everyone's saying that there's these glaring problems with CS2 and the smokes don't work and stuff with the nades and stuff like that. But I don't know why everyone's taking it as though everything will be as it is now. That the gun sounds probably sound different. The steps were different. The models probably were different. Everything's going to be somewhat changed. And the same way that you bring a new map out and it's completely different in 6 months' time, other than Vertigo and Ancient, because for some reason I just got bored. I don't know what it was, but with the other maps, it's never like that. So I expect them to be extremely active when it first comes out, and probably in the months that it's been now since the game was in beta, I think it'll be a completely different game when it comes out the next time we see it. And I'm not intimidated by it. It's going to be a big challenge. I think that any people that were lazy in CS:GO but talented, they're going to be the ones that really struggle going into CS2, and we'll see some tier 1 players be found out, in my opinion, because they won't be able to adapt and they won't put the time in. Like someone like Monezi is probably going to become the best player in the world because that guy is He's just living the
Grinder.
game all the time, and he's going to find every single thing to make that game the best. And other people who've been around forever are probably not going to have that motivation anymore, which is understandable.
Fair enough. Well, brother, that concludes things. I'll kind of open the floor if you want to shout out anything. Obviously, all your socials and your links and stuff are well below your head and obviously below the video as well. But if you want to shout out anything, feel free. Now's your time.
I don't think so. No, everything's just on my Twitter, so that's my Twitter.
Good stuff. Well, brother, hey, mate, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a very, very insightful interview, so I really do appreciate it. Of course, everybody at home for watching. If you're new around here, go and follow Ashhh. You see it right below his head there. Link is below as well, so go and follow him on Twitter. Go and support the Gamerlegion boys. They're doing us proud. And if you're new around here, subscribe and like and all of the good stuff. Ashhh, brother, thank you again for joining me, man. And until next one, we'll see you all soon. Take care.